Hello everybody, and welcome. Welcome to this live from Pressure to Presence. We're going to be spending about 45 minutes together. We're going to be speaking about how we can actually be more strategic about noticing the pressure in our lives. It's going to always be out there for sure. But what about the pressure that we create for ourselves inside, and that we can move from being pressurized to actually creating presence, which actually is created from within. And so we're going to be learning today to stand in a new place. Now, for anybody that has access and can see the picture on the screen, if not, I'm going to describe it to you. So there are two paths here. There's one path on the left that is dark, heavy clouds, lots of pressure. And that's the pressure path that a lot of us walk every day. I know myself, I'm often in that place. That's how I can actually, give this training today. Because not only do I coach leaders in 40 different countries who are under pressure, I myself live in Israel. I came from South Africa and I live in pressure daily. So how can I choose that path on the right where there's more light, where I feel lighter from within, where I'm clearer, where I create choice? So that, my friends, is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how we can move more into presence. If you're just joining, hello, I'm Samantha Amit. And what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be talking a bit about how the brain works and what happens to us when we're under pressure. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about mindfulness. Why? Because I'm also a trained mindfulness teacher. Not only have I done my self-training, but I've also am trained in mindfulness, also in mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so I bring that into my life and into my work every day. We're going to be speaking about a real life situation about Rona, who it's not a real name. She's an APAC leader that I've been coaching for over 3 months. And so I'm going to be talking to you about her journey from pressure to presence. We're also going to be looking at Rona's thinking. We're going to be looking into how she became more present, how she became more choiceful. What does that actually mean for somebody to be more choiceful? Well, when you're living in the present moment, it's about bringing more choice into your life. And so we're going to be looking at also the ACT model, the Mindful ACT leadership model. So let's move forward and see if this session is for you. So this session is for you if you lead people. If you lead people, if you're interacting with a lot of people. Almost all my clients are working cross-functionally. As I said, I work with leaders in 40 different countries. And so they're working with people on different continents, and that in itself is pressurizing. They're working on multiple projects across multiple teams under real pressure. The pressure is real. We can't get the pressure to go away. What we can do is actually connect into presence within us, and that way we handle the pressure much better. So if you're ambitious, if you're highly capable, if your thinking sometimes creates more pressure, you're in the right place. If you say yes and wonder how you will deliver, because the leaders I coach are often can-do people, how they got to their place of where they are on their leadership journey is because they are so capable, because they're just moving forward all the time. So maybe you're here because you want to create more space, maybe space to breathe, time to think between the pressure and how you're going to respond. And maybe you care about leading with more presence and not just performance. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to be speaking about Rona today and how she moved from, yes, I can, sure, no problem, this automatic availability to intentional leadership. And that was a real shift. And you know what? It actually happened quite organically for her, because in Rona's case, she didn't even know it was possible. Now, just as an example, I was coaching a leader today. She knew that it was possible to move from, this always on sure mentality, but she didn't know how to get out of her automatic way of being and into, this new way of leading. So what I want to do now with you is to take you into the next slide and talk a little bit about pressure. And so when you're pressurized, you don't feel so great, and some people might be moving on adrenaline, but I'm talking to you if you know that you want to move from this constant state of pressure, of needing to deliver, of needing to be great. And the question is, how can you do that? How can you move more into presence? How can you stand in presence when actually your heart is beating, when you maybe are having sleepless nights from worry, maybe your team is under real pressure, maybe you're really capable, but your thinking creates, this pressure. Maybe you say yes quickly. And so I want to explain what happens to you when you get pressurized. So this is very human, by the way. It's nothing that is, there's no human on the planet that doesn't experience pressure, that doesn't embody. Embody means feeling it in your body. So just as an example, last night I was facilitating a session with a group, and I asked these people, how do you feel pressure? So one of them said, I feel my heart racing. She feels it in her heart. That's this picture here on the right. Someone else said they have a headache. Someone else said, it shows up in my thinking. I have self-doubt. I have thoughts like I have to finish this, I have to do it now. Someone else said, I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep. And sometimes it's good pressure, and it's great if it's good pressure. But what we want to do is we want to try and minimize the pressure and bring it down a bit by identifying and starting to understand what within me is creating this pressure. So we've got pressure that's showing up in the body that I mentioned before, heart racing, headache. We've got self-doubt. We've got, I've got to finish this. And we've got emotions that are coming up. Emotions like frustration, like fear, like overwhelm, sense of shame, sense of self-doubt. I'm not good enough. What if I fail? What if I can't do it? The fear of not meeting delivery, the anger of when you can't get somebody to do something. And so what happens when you're under pressure is you have what's called an amygdala attack. And that's like, just imagine that, an ambulance is called out. Imagine that there is, let's say, you're walking in the forest, and there is all of a sudden this wild boar. Okay, now I'm originally from South Africa. If I was, going hiking, a wild boar in the fields would be very common. But a wild boar can be very dangerous, actually. And so what happens is when you see a wild boar, what you tend to do is your body goes into fight or fright or freeze. And so this FFS response is the brain's natural way of protecting you. Because if you're going to fly, you're going to run really fast and get away from that ball. If you're going to freeze, like you would do maybe, let's say, for a snake, then you wouldn't move. If you're going to fight, then the body, what it does is it excretes adrenaline to help you fight. It excretes cortisol so that if, let's say, the ball would bite you, you wouldn't even feel it. So the body has this natural coping mechanism where you're always on the lookout to see, am I under threat? Am I under threat? Am I safe? Am I safe? That's what the brain normally does. And then you have what's called this response, which is your sympathetic nervous system coming in to help you react to the threat. The problem that we have, my friends, is during the day, during our work day, is that we actually think we're under threat many more times than we actually are. Because what's happening is the pressure that we perceive of a late delivery, of how am I going to manage this, how am I going to cope, the burden that we've got of, supporting everybody in our team, it can become too much. And so the pressure, the way we internalize it, is not good for us. So imagine calling an ambulance, okay? An ambulance does not need to be called many times a day, but that's what you're doing within your body, and it's not healthy at all. And so what's happening is we want to help the body so that the body starts noticing earlier and we don't go into this threat response. And so what we want to do is we want to practice more mindfulness. So for those of you coming in, my name is Samantha Amit. Wonderful to meet you. I am a strategy coach. I'm an executive coach. I've been coaching for over 20 years. But before that, I had a career in leadership myself. And so not only for 2 decades have I been coaching leaders who, are experiencing pressure, who are experiencing this huge intensity of life and want to find a different way, a different approach. Not only have I lived that in leadership, but I also work with leaders today in 40 different countries. And so why I'm doing this live is because a lot of my leaders, when they coach with me, I don't have time to train them. And so some of them are actually listening to me speaking now. So, hi. And, I go through the Mindful Act leadership model, which is a model that I created from all these 20 years of experience of working with people in tech. And I'm going to go into the model, and what the model does is it's a mindfulness model. And so it talks about how we can actually, pause, slow down, maybe stop for a few moments and notice our thinking. Maybe notice what's going on here in the heart area. Maybe notice what's going on in the body. Because my friends, the body stores everything. And so when we drop into this present moment of being more conscious, we have much more of a choice of how we want to respond. So, by the way, if any of you have got questions, please drop your questions into the comments and I would love to answer them at the end. We're going to have time for some Q&A and we're going to be doing that as well. So, mindfulness is a very much part of how I live today. I meditate daily, okay? And I also believe in what I call informal practice. What is informal practice? Informal practice is what we're learning here today. Informal practice is where you learn to slow down enough, even if it's for 30 seconds, to pause and actually realize you've got a choice. I've just come off a call with the most amazing leader today. And what I said to him, you know what? You need to move. The current path that you're on now is not the best one for you. So we need to actually not just change on that path. We need to hop paths. And on this new journey, it's like the path that I showed you. You can either travel this pressure, or we can change paths and what's waiting for us on this new path. And so that's what I do. I journey with people on a path to help them tap into a higher wisdom here, tap into the body. The body's always present. When you don't do this work, what people do is they get depressed or they burn out or they get not unmotivated at work, or they have huge troubles managing their team. and they can't understand why they are stuck in, they don't get promoted, or why they can't find the next thing. And so presence is key into tapping into what's working for me, what isn't working for me, and tapping into a higher sense of self. And so what I want to do is I want to move you to the next level now. And so what we're going to do is, in a few minutes, we're going to move into Rona's story. But what I want to do before that, I just want to let you know that I do these lives regularly. For those of you that can see the screen now, you can scan a barcode that you'll know instantly when I'll be having my next live, because I'll let you know, so you can sign up to know when the next lives are. You can sign up with this barcode to get a free resource, which is the Daily Leadership Reset. All the clients that coach with me use this Daily Leadership Reset, and it's huge for moving from pressure into presence. And I will also send you the replay, that if you can't watch, live, you'll be able to get the replay. And so this is really important. So please do be proactive, scan the barcode, and I'd love to see you also in a future live. So let's understand the Mindful Act leadership model, and then we're going to go into Rona's story. So the Mindful Act leadership model has 3 levels, and it's called ACT. This is a technique that I use with everybody I coach, okay? And so ACT is an acronym, and it stands for, A is for achieve, and that the achieve piece is about me and myself. The connect piece is about all the people that I'm connecting with. It's the people I'm collaborating with. It's the people I'm speaking to. So it's my one-on-ones. And the T is the thrive piece. The thrive piece is the ecosystem that I live and work in. It's the culture. It's the culture not only of my team, but it's the team to teams approach. So with Rona, we're going to be going into in a few minutes, who are the teams that she's working with? She works not in one country. She's in APAC. So she works across APAC, but she also works with the US. And so it's different time zones she's navigating. And how can she and her team thrive instead of survive? And so it's called ACT because, my friends, you do need to do something. You can't be passive. You need to be active. You need to do something to survive. And so a little story from today, because maybe my client is listening. She said to me, she's originally from Russia. And so she told me the story. She said a guy was going for work to a construction site. And so, the foreman there said, "What do you do?" So he says, "Well, I can dig." And so then the foreman said, "Well, what else can you do?" So then he said, "Well, I can choose also not to dig." And so I'm not sure if I understand this exact joke, but what's important is that there's always, and I was speaking with another client, is there's always the opposite. And you always have a choice. You have a choice to say yes, and you have a choice to say no. And each of them have got consequences. And so we're going to see that now. And so you need this ACT model to help you to be proactive, to understand what your choices are. The achieve part is you and yourself. The connect part is your one-to-one, one-to-many relationships. And the thrive is the systemic approach. So let's go into the ACT model and again look at the achieve part is about how you manage yourself. You choose what matters. This is how you create direction. Now, if you are feeling under huge pressure, we start here. We start with achieve. We start seeing how you can manage yourself more effectively, how you can choose what's important to you, and how you can create maybe new direction. And so this is a simple structure, and it's a simple technique for, coming back to presence when you're under pressure. And so the pressure doesn't disappear, but this ACT gives you actually the direction of what you need to do. Where you can stand. And so the C connect is how you can listen differently. How you can listen differently to others, maybe hear things differently. How can you share ownership? It's not all on you. How can you collaborate in your team? I call it shared leadership. How can you influence with trust? And the Thrive piece is all about cross-team collaboration. It's all about business impact thinking and about leading sustainably. And so before we move on, what I want to do is I see there's a question here in the comments. How do you help a leader move to the next level when they do not have time to invest in their promotion? So absolutely, Marie, thanks for asking this question. A lot of leaders feel this pressure because they want to move to their next level and they feel they're stuck in execution mode, stuck in navigating all the pressure, and they don't even have the time to work on their next level. So hopefully today, going through Rona's example, which we're going to move into right now, you're actually going to get some tools of how you can move to your next level, and also how you can maybe find that time to invest in what your next level is. It may be a promotion and it may be something else for you. So let's have a look at what's happening with Rona. So Rona, she is brilliant. And as you're listening to me and you're hearing this, this real story about Rona, please just breathe in and breathe out as you're listening to me. Whatever you're doing, you may be driving, you may be walking, you may be listening, just listening. Great on you. Just know that you too are reliable. You too are brilliant. You too are hardworking. That's why you're here. You're here to get more tools. And so as you're listening, breathe in and breathe out. And I want you to know that she built her success on saying yes and delivering. And now what's happened to her is she moved into a wider scope. Her sense of responsibility, her responsibility is scaled. And so she cannot use the same things, the same ways of working, because she's just got more and more pressure. And so her way of just saying yes to everything is not working for her anymore. So we're on the achieve piece. And what she does is she says yes. And then she says, I'll figure out, in her mind, she says, I'll figure out how to deliver it afterwards, because this is what she always does. But the truth is, there's a deeper move. The deeper move is not doing less, my friends, because sometimes we can't, but we need to make a wiser choice. And how do you make this wiser choice? So let's understand Rona's pattern, because we need to understand her pattern and what her thinking was. So first of all, she automatically responds quickly. She's very quick. She responds to requests. She says yes. She sees who in her team can do it, but she doesn't really check. She stays available whenever anybody needs her. She's driven externally. She's driven by external demands. She feels stretched. She's sometimes resentful, and she is so responsible. I mean, I can tell you with Rona that what happens to her is her boss can call her at any hours of the day. Her boss can call her in the evening when she's with her kids. She's got 2 young kids. And because she never thought to say no. And it's not even about a boundary setting. It was for her. She built her way up the corporate ladder by just thinking she could do everything. She was like Superwoman. But the truth is, you just get more and more. And her boss was calling because she never said to him, is this important now? And often he would just call to chat because she was the best person to speak to. And so she would leave her kids hanging while she would be speaking to her boss, who didn't have anything really serious to talk about. Or China would want to have a meeting with her really early in the morning. And that was her time when she was, taking her kids to school. And so she had to do this juggling of being on her phone on a call, and she didn't even think that there was another way of working. So let's have a look and see what happened to her. So she was someone that she kept thinking, I need to respond now. She was thinking, I don't have time to stop and check. She was thinking, I'll work out how to deliver later. She was thinking, if I say no, am I letting people down? And she didn't realize that there was more available to her. And this all falls into the achieve part of the Mindful Act leadership model, which is her and her thinking. So what we want to do is we want to start to slow things down and notice your thinking. Okay? So if you remember a few slides ago, I mentioned about the daily leadership reset. What happens is my clients actually do use the daily leadership reset during their week. And then they come to me into the coaching session and we work through the thinking and we understand. That's one of the main techniques I use. We understand the thinking and we understand how the thinking is actually creating more pressure, or the thinking is actually serving them. Is it serving them? Is it serving their team? Is it serving the business? And so we want to understand that. So with Rona, what happened is the changes that she created is we started introducing more presence, especially in her connects. So now what she does is she pauses before committing. She checks what's realistic. Now, this is something that everybody can do, check your calendar. But a lot of people are so busy moving, they don't think to do that. Now she protects time and energy for thinking. And how she does that is she does that through meeting with me. First of all, it started off over a 3-month journey of meeting with me. And that was time for actually thinking. It was time for processing her week, because her week was so busy. Most of the leaders that I'm working with are so busy during the week, they don't have thinking time. They don't have time to actually even understand what I'm doing. Is that taking my team to the next level? Because they're in execution mode the whole time. And so what happened is she started protecting this time for thinking. She started seeing, okay, what can I do differently? So she started realizing, I can pause before I answer. I can check my priorities first. I can do all this. I can be committed without being automatically available. I am allowed to choose. And actually, it became quite transformational when she realized that she can say no, she can say not now, and she didn't realize it was even an option. So that was a radical change for her. So as I say, these are the sentences that she kept practicing. She kept asking herself, let me check what's realistic. Let me check my priorities. She started saying, maybe not now, but can I come back to you? And then often that person didn't want to wait. Now I'm giving Rona's example, but this is an example that happens to a lot of people that are so busy in execution mode. By the way, what we are going to be doing, let me just finish my thinking. Okay, so she realized in this connect phase that she can stay connected without abandoning herself, because she was always servicing outward, servicing other people. And presence wasn't about doing less. It was just choosing to be more conscious, like you are now. If you want to just take this moment to pause, to breathe in and breathe out, let's just do that. Let's just drop into a present moment. Whew. Breathing in and breathing out. And maybe just acknowledging yourself for being here right now, right here, right now. You could be anywhere else, but you're actually taking the time to level up, your leadership. So now what I want to do is I want to move into this Thrive piece of the ACT model. So the ACT, the ACT model, is the Thrive piece is around the rhythm of the system. So in Rona's example, China was asking her to meet at 8 a.m. in the morning. And under pressure, everyone, her whole team had to adapt and meet early. And now the same team had to service people across the world. And so they were up early, they were up late, and it didn't suit them every day. The early and late calls cost family time, and Rona and her team actually absorbed the pressure. And so the system and the culture was happening to her instead of her actually knowing that she can bring more presence in and create more shared agreements across time zones. She could, have more sustainable team rhythms. The system carries more of the load, not only her and her team. And so Rona influences how the team operated. So she reached out to China and she said, can we align? It doesn't work for us. Sometimes it was the night before that they asked for the 8 a.m. meeting. And so she said to them, can you give us 24 hours notice if you want an early meeting? And if possible, can we meet at 9 and not at 8? And, again, for you, you may think, oh, this is so obvious. But not everything was obvious to Rona. Another thing that was happening was that one of her team members, there was an escalation. Rona is part of a tech team. So there was this escalation, and one of her team members were asked to travel within 24 hours to another country. And she said, you know what? He needs to organize himself. He needs to organize. He's got a personal life too. And so she said, she checked in with him. And of course he said, that's really difficult. And so she reached out and she said, I know there's an escalation. We'll start working on it from here. But, my team member can't travel within 24 hours. He's going to need a little bit more than that. And so she spoke about that. And so she organized that things would be a bit different. And so that's so important. And so again, I'm just going to take a moment to just take a sip of water. And what I want to say is that if this story doesn't resonate with you about Rona, what I'm going to be talking about in a couple of weeks' time is a story with Stephanie. I particularly decided not to put it all together and have, pressure and intense. I want you to take the story in. And this story may not be about you, but maybe one of your team members is under a lot of pressure. Maybe one of your team members is, overcommitting. And so maybe you want to share this presentation with one of your team member or even a colleague or a friend that could be helpful. So please do share. Don't only keep it to yourself. So in 2 weeks' time, we're not finished, but I do want to give you just like a little entree into what we're going to be doing in 2 weeks' time. We're going to be talking about Stephanie. And Stephanie's case is a little bit different. What happens with her is that she's very forceful and very demanding to get things done. So when she's not getting what she needs, and she wants to be more influential, but what she's doing is when she needs something, so she needs something for her work to move her work forward, not only does she feel the pressure, but she puts the pressure on others. And that's not good for the system as well. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in 2 months' time. But let's get back to today. And so let's look at the ACT model so that you understand it better, how we went from pressure to presence to choice. So with Rona in the achieve piece, it was about her pausing before automatically saying yes. She can always say yes afterwards, but not straight away yes. Okay? Just by the way, I've got another person I'm coaching. He's a project manager and he works a lot cross-functionally. And people just drop him an IM and say, can I have a 2 minutes? And so he says yes. And then that 2 minutes turns out to be 38 minutes. And he's on his way home and this person's on the other side of the world. And so he needs to think before saying yes. And so there are a lot of other things I do in the coaching, like have an alignment conversation. And there are many things you can do. But the first thing is this conscious awareness of understanding that I don't have to automatically say yes. And so, just pausing a moment. The connect piece is how you want to stay connected while being clear. And that often what I do is figure out how you can communicate in a way that serves you, that serves the other. And so that connection and keeping connection is really important. And then the thrive piece is about creating a rhythm where the team can also sustain. And so that is like the example that I gave with China, when China wanted the early morning, maybe with the travel of the team member. And so just aligning with cross-functional teams around, your team's availability, and not always being able to say yes to everybody. So we want presence to become practical. And all it is this one moment of noticing. It's this one clearer choice and one more sustainable rhythm. So this again is the barcode where you can sign up for future lives. And I want to really invite you to think about how you can use this daily leadership reset. I hope you're going to be downloading it. You're welcome to reach out to me with any questions about the daily leadership reset, or any of the replays or any of the lives that you're watching. I love you to drop comments into the box. I would love you to, reach out to me with a question. And what I want to do now is I'd like to answer Marie's question here in the chat. And so what Marie's asking is, how can you help a leader that doesn't have the time to invest in their promotion? So, wow, that's a brilliant question. If anybody else has questions, please drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best either to answer them now in the live, or I'll answer them later to you in the comments here. So we need to make time. We need to make time to, invest in presence. And so maybe I'll give you an example of actually something from today, and you may be listening in, of another way of practicing presence, another way which doesn't take time away from your everyday. We in meetings all the time, and invariably when we're in meetings, the pressure is on, because the pressure's on to prove ourselves about how we can contribute. And so, in fact, since I spoke to this leader today, another leader today, it was my first session with this other leader, he was telling me exactly the same thing. He was saying that actually something different. He was, also talking about how he can contribute and how important it is to contribute in meetings. So when you are in a meeting and you're listening to someone speaking, instead of like really consciously listening, breathing, listening, you are thinking, okay, what can I say? What can I say? How can I contribute? And so you spend a lot of time just pressurizing yourself with thinking about, oh, they said this. What should I say about this? Meantime, the person has said 10 more sentences, but you are not present with that person or with other people speaking because you're thinking about one sentence that they said. And so how you can practice present moment in meetings is that you can, and this is a way to practice, and this can take you to your next level, and it doesn't even require time. All that it requires is some breathing space and you listening instead of thinking. So what do you think about that? What do you think about being on a conference call and taking a sip of water while somebody's speaking, maybe feeling your body in the chair, asking yourself, how am I right now? And listening to the person, just like really actively listening. And a huge secret that I want to tell you, and it's a truth. So this huge truth that I want to tell you is that when you really deeply listen, you become present. And when you become present, you start trusting yourself more. And when you trust yourself more, the answers are going to come naturally. And when the answers come naturally, you're going to build your confidence. And when the answers come naturally, because you trust in yourself, and when you know that you're going to have those answers and you can really listen deeply. You're going to move on to a new path. And that new path, my friends, is a next level. And you can practice this next level without any space and time, just by actually practicing your listening. And so with Rona, for example, when somebody reaches out to her and she's in a conversation, she may be in a meeting, and they ask her for something, instead of her answering yes, Rona now says, tell me more about what you want. And so the person goes on and on. Okay, and then tell me more about that. And the person goes on, and they say, oh, you know what, maybe I should ask so-and-so, or maybe whatever. Or Rona could answer, you know what, that's really interesting what you're sharing. Let me think about it. Let me go share it with my team, and let me get back to you. And so she does that. She goes into Connect and she shares it with her team. And then her team member said, well, you know what, their delivery time is a bit problematic and we don't have the resources at the moment. So maybe you need to go back and have that discussion with them and then take it from there. And so now Rona's in a different place. She's not just saying yes, because it's not about her anymore. It's about that shared leadership. It's about going back and discussing things with your team. It's about understanding more. And it's about just believing in yourself that you are already at that next level. That's why you're here, right now, listening to me on this call. And so I really want to thank you for your time today. And one of the things you can do is you can add this to your calendar. You know, you add time to do the daily leadership reset, which is at the end of the day. It's to clear your mind so that you can sleep well. Because a lot, you know, as I said yesterday, I was facilitating, and what they told me is they couldn't fall asleep. One of the persons said they couldn't fall asleep. Someone else said she wakes up in the middle of the night. I'm coaching a leader that she wakes up in the middle of the night. And because her brain, it's the only time she's got to think, because she's so busy during the day, this founder. She is busy. And so what her mind does when there's stillness, wakes her up in the middle of the night so that she can think about things, not only because she's worried, but it's good thinking time. So I don't know what your story is. I don't know why you're here. I would love to hear. I would love to meet you. I'd love to understand what's important to you. But I do want you to know that moving from pressure to presence, or from being present within the pressure, and I just got goosebumps, it is possible. And it's a different way of living. It's a different way of working. And it's a different way of bringing impact into your life, into your team's life, and into the world. And so thank you so much for being here today. I'm Samantha Met. I'd love you to connect with me in any of your, any way that is best for you. So let me just see any of your best social media, whether it be LinkedIn, YouTube. I am less on Facebook, but I'm there as well. Instagram as well. So just, my friends, go away believing in yourself. Yes, you can. And it's just step after step, one step at a time. You can create that space. If you can create that pause to breathe, in that pause, you have that opportunity to choose. So bye for now, and I hope to see you soon.